Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. So I grew up in the southwest of Sweden. It's a farming area, so all my neighbors were farmers. I didn't grow up on a farm myself, but my family was very much a wannabe farming family with making the most of what the garden and the backyard pigs and chickens could make. When I left school, I went to Australia to work on a farm, and then I came back and I started to become an agronomist. And since then, I have worked more than 20 years for the farmers in different roles for the Swedish farmers. So it's been talks about the time we have left. So in a farming perspective, we have 27 harvests left before we reach 2050. Or you can say 4 crop rotations, because in a crop rotation you have 8 different years. So that's the time. So we're also very eager to do things. But first of all, maybe some facts. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about farmers. So if you have more detailed questions of how farmers think, you can ask me, because I know them quite well. So farmers, they always complain about the weather. But, why do they do that? Because their whole business is based on it. I mean, farming and food production is actually based on the photosynthesis, where the sun makes a plant with use of air, nutrients, and some water. So, of course, every day a farmer is worried about what's the weather going to be like. Today in Sweden, or this year, we have a very bad drought. So one farmer said to me, I find it amazing that each year I do the same thing. I throw out a bunch of money on a field and I hope for the best. A bunch of money meaning you throw out seeds, you throw out fertilizers, you make the land profitable, and you don't know whether it's going to happen or not. So farmers are very much dependent on the weather, and they're the first to be hit by climate change as we know it. And they're also the first that have to somehow cope with it in order to survive. So I think they have a fundamental right actually to complain about the weather. And farmers also often complain about profitability. But this is core, because if you're not profitable, you can never invest in anything new that could make a better farm or a greener technique or a new type of seed or whatever it be. You can never invest to make sure that next time there's a drought, you're better prepared. You also need to be profitable, because some years you have a drought, another year you have market prices very low. So you need a few harvests in the bank, let's say. And, you need a business that is adaptable to change. And in Sweden, we have quite a lot of cooperatives, farmer-owned cooperatives, and they're obviously there to help this, making the farmer more profitable, if you like. But farmers are also even if they're small and local, they're very dependent on global markets. What happens on input costs, what happens on prices for milk or for cereals. So that's something also important to remember. And on consumer preferences, I was recently in South Africa with the World Farmers Association, and we went to visit a farm that produced citrus fruit. And they showed us, how it went, and they explained that they have 15 different treatments of chemicals in one season. So, okay, you think that's quite a lot, but half of them had actually no use in terms of, it was only cosmetic for the fruit, because it was sold to a market where you can't have a single spot on the fruit. So it didn't affect eating quality, food safety or anything. So it's important to also think about, what consumers do. And farmers do produce to consumer preferences, of course. What other choice do they have? So farming is also not a quick fix. If you have a cow who produces milk, you can't just switch her off overnight. If you have your land that you can grow certain things on, you can't just dramatically change everything overnight. So it's very long term, and you sort of, as a farmer, stuck with the land you have. If you're a farmer in North Sweden or in many parts of Sweden, all you can grow is grass. So how do you transform grass to food via cows or cattle or sheep? So, no other farming is more or less possible there than animal production. Also, a farmer needs long-term political conditions, because if one day a politician says this and come with a new law there, and then the next day something else is valid, it doesn't work. Often farming is also a generational thing. Some farmers have been there for maybe many generations, others a bit fewer, but farmers normally want to leave the farm in a better condition to the next generation than they had. Better profitability, better environmentally, better for everyone. This is a bit, the facts of being a farmer. So then these 27 harvests, I mean, what can we do then? So I would say farmers are already very well on their way. They're already doing a lot of things. Some of them has been mentioned here. And I think, since they're so affected by climate change and also biodiversity loss that was mentioned here, they are constantly, every day, trying to find ways of coping with this. So some of these concepts, if you like, or buzzwords might already be happening in the farm, even though you not all know about it. So what are the concrete measures? Well, efficiency, obviously. We have to produce with less inputs, less of everything, especially then if we're also going to have less land due to various reasons. So it means we need to drive less on the fields. We used to use less inputs, such as fertilizers. We need to have sustainable fertilizers. We need to use less fossil-based. We need to have fossil-free fuel, I would say, in the fields. We also need less pesticides, of course. We need sustainable alternative to this. And we need then to accomplish this other tools. So we need new breeds that can withstand more pests, for instance. We need new breeds that can withstand drought. We need renewable energy. It could be produced on the farm from biogas, for instance. It could be solar. We need machinery that can do this. We really need, a lot of tools to help in this. Farmers also need more biodiversity. There are already things happening, but it has to be very locally adapted. A farmer in the south of Sweden who will grow a lot of cereals, perhaps, will have to do other measures than in the north of Sweden, where they have a problem with forests taking over the land. So I think this is very crucial. And then, of course, I mentioned it before, the role of animals. In Sweden, we need to increase the number of grazing animals because otherwise we lose the biodiversity goals. Because the pasture-based grazing is creating pastures that are as high, Swedish researchers tell us, as the biodiversity in the Amazon. But it's sometimes difficult to make a profit out of it. So we lose these animals. So therefore, they have a crucial role. What else about this leadership then? So I mentioned already that we have the cooperatives. So we have big cooperatives. They're all purely farmer-owned. One of them is Arla Foods, I'm sure you've heard of. It's a dairy cooperative. We have another one called Lantmännen, which is a cereal cooperative. And they have created a sort of a bonus system for the farmers because they want to be their farmers' best business partners. So they want to make themselves, the products that are produced, consumer wants to buy, and we know to be on this road to net zero. So the farmer actually gets paid a bonus. They have a multitude of measures to choose from because a farm is different in south and north. The same measures won't work for everyone. So they can choose a variety of measures and they get paid a little bit extra for their milk or for the cereals. And this works quite well. And also because it's controlled and audited, and the farmer can sort of measure and see concrete effects of the measures he or she are taking. And this is very successful in getting everyone on board. You see the concrete results. To finish off, what is sustainable agriculture? Well, I think it's an agriculture that is led by farmers because farmers are actually the ones, whether we like it or not, who produce the food we need to eat every day. And if they're not on the board, the change will never happen. And they are already there. I mean, they really see the urgency of everything. And it must be a system that is adapted to local conditions. Otherwise, it won't work. And you can call this system many names, but it comes down always to 4 Ps. There has to be productivity. It has to be good for the pocket of the farmer. I was mentioning this. Profitability has to be good for the planet. You can't look at just one measure for climate and another one for biodiversity if they work against each other. And it has to be good for people. People need to want to buy the produce. It has to be good for the farmers who deal with it. Thank you.